All right, and welcome back to the forecast card. Wow, this has been probably one of the hottest streaks I've had in this sport in a very long time. Another 7-0 sweep. This brings us to 14-0 over the last 2 days. Yeah, I kind of love to see it. Merrimack pretty much sweat free. They ended up completely dominating the second half, winning that game by like 20 points. New Mexico State, Louisiana Tech, also pretty sweat free. I think the total ended around 120 ish. Yeah, Louisiana Tech sucks. Liberty, I wouldn't necessarily say it was sweat free. It's kind of back and forth. But I'd say Liberty was the better team for most of that game. Ended up winning that game by 5. Michigan State, now that is what you would call a sweaty game. They win by 7. They got completely clobbered in the first half. I really kind of mentally checked this one out a while ago, but it comes through for us. Everything's kind of working out. Cleveland State, very similar game. They were dominating, I would say, for 30% of the game. Then it got a little bit sweaty near the end with Northern Kentucky not really missing much. But fortunately, Cleveland State, a pretty solid free throw shooting team, really clutched up and ended up winning that game by 5. Cal State Bakersfield, pretty meh first half, down 5, but they clutched back up, winning by 12. And Cal Baptist, the lock of the day, comes through. They win this game by 20 points. Pretty much dominated when they had to. So another 7-0 day. We love to see it. That brings us to 241, 196, and 8 on the season. Locks bring up to 12 and 5. Yeah, hopefully we can keep this going. I didn't really like today's slate, but it worked out. I really don't like today's slate again on Friday, but I was able to find 7 spots that I liked. So let's go for the 7 games that I'm betting for tomorrow in college basketball. All right, heading on to game number 1, we have Murray versus Bradley. Now, obviously, Murray State has been looking really solid lately. It's kind of hard to deny that they've looked pretty solid in this tournament, but I really don't think they're as good as they look. They're still a team that has been crushed by some pretty subpar teams like Evansville, Belmont, Missouri State. They've lost to Bradley twice. The last game was a little bit closer, but that was in a revenge spot, and they still lost. And that's kind of when Bradley was coasting a little bit, kind of knowing that they locked up the second seed. Now, I think Bradley, they are due for a ton of regression, which is the main reason why I've never truly bet them. But I do think on paper they are the way better team than Murray State, and they match up really well. We're getting Murray State in kind of an awkward spot here, where they're off of 1 day's rest. They played yesterday. You could argue that means that they're going to be super relaxed, but playing with no rest is pretty tough against a team that's going to be super rested. They're 0-1 whenever they've had against the spread in the only game that they played in a back-to-back already this year. Obviously, they played really well in the conference tournament game, but again, I think Bradley's going to come into this game. They're the better road team, which is kind of what you look at when you're looking at neutral court games. And when I look at the matchup-wise, like Bradley is way better offensively. Definitely the better defensive team. Really, the only way Murray State's going to find success in this game is getting to the line. But I think because Bradley's going to be so much more well-rested, it's going to be tougher for Murray State to force fouls. Now, Bradley, they're a team that shoots a lot of mid-range and threes. Those are 2 spots they're going to find a lot of success in this game. In general, they'll find some success off turnovers. And then if you look at the other side, Murray State, they shoot a lot of near-basket shots. That's what Bradley defends the best. They're ranked 65th in near-basket defense. They don't turn the ball over a lot. They minimize board opportunities. Murray State also likes to take a lot of threes. Murray State top 75 in three-point defense. So everywhere where Bradley likes to shoot, Bradley defends well. Everywhere Bradley likes to shoot, Bradley will have success. Obviously, Murray's a decent three-point defense as well, but Bradley has just a lot more talent than Murray does. Now, where Murray does have success is they get to the line a lot, and Bradley does foul a decent amount. But in a game like this, I think Bradley is going to be locked in. They probably predicted Murray State was going to be the winner of that game already, so they've been kind of planning for them. And again, if you don't foul Murray, they're not a good offensive team. That's really where they get all their points. So I like the fact that Bradley can defend the paint well. If you look into the matchup a little bit more, Murray State, they average around a 72% free throw percent shooting team, And then the game they beat, or they still lost to Bradley, but the game they kept it within 2, they shot 81% from the free throw line. They got to line a ton, but it's hard to imagine that they're going to be able to put off that kind of performance again. Bradley won the board advantage by 10. Turnovers were pretty relatively close. I straight up just think Bradley is the better team. They're going to have the best player on the floor. In that game, both their best players shot really poorly, except for Jaquan Johnson, but the other two shot 6 for 14, 6 for 15. I don't think that happens again. I think Duke Dean and Darius Hannah just walk over Murray State, who kind of relies a little bit too heavily on Terrence Heckerm. So give me Bradley minus 3.5 in this second game of the conference tournament. All right, heading on to game number 2, we have Western Michigan versus Bowling Green. I just think Bowling Green is the slightly better team. You could argue that Western Michigan is coming into this game in a revenge spot. But when I look at the way these two teams played last time, Bowling Green, obviously not that great of an offensive team, but I think Western Michigan got more rebounds than they probably should have that game, especially offensive rebounds, which was kind of an anomaly based off how good Bowling Green is on their own boards. They matched up in turnovers, but the biggest difference here is that Western Michigan shot 71% from the free throw line, while Bowling Green only shot 60%, despite Bowling Green on paper being the much better free throw shooting team. So I think the game looked close last time they played, but if stuff kind of averaged out a little bit, you're going to get a Bowling Green team that probably would have won by 8 or 9 points. On paper, Western Michigan has played a much harder schedule than Bowling Green, but Bowling Green has looked a lot better lately. And the one thing that Western Michigan heavily relies on to score is the offensive board. And Bowling Green is one of the best teams in college basketball. Obviously, they haven't played a great schedule strength, but in terms of the quality of Mid-American teams you're going to get, they're ranked 14th in limiting second chance opportunity percentage. So if Western Michigan can't get offensive boards to get points, because they don't shoot anything well, they're basically outside of the top 300 everywhere, I think they're going to really struggle here. If you look at this matchup, Bowling Green doesn't foul nearly as much. You could project that Bowling Green should get a ton more free throws this game against a Western Michigan team that does foul a lot more than Bowling Green here. Yeah, I don't know. I guess you could argue it's a red spot. Western Michigan does play better on the road, but I think Bowling Green, the way they've been playing, they have been the better team. We're getting them Western Michigan in a true road spot after kind of an awkward home away scheduling. They're traveling 100 miles here. Bowling Green's going to be playing at home. They don't necessarily play that great at home, but they do play better at home than they do on the road. So I just think we're just getting the better team here at a good price. Give me Western Michigan, or Bowling Green, sorry, minus 3. All right, moving on to game number 3, we have Ohio versus Toledo. Now, these two teams have played already this year, where Toledo was the one that was victorious. But I think this was a big anomaly game here. I think Ohio is the better team. Obviously, Ohio is a team that relies heavily on home advantage. But Toledo's a team that's kind of the opposite. They play really, really bad on the road, and they're playing atrocious. They were really good at the beginning of the year. Then they had they have some tough matchups against Purdue, Houston, whatever. And then they went on another hot streak, but they've lost 5 of their last 6. They're looking really bad. They only put up 65 points to Kent State, gave up 105. Lost to Buffalo, a really bad team, on the road by 13. They lost to Akron by 9. They lost to Bowling Green by 1. They barely beat Ball State at home by 1 point. They lost to Eastern Michigan. They're losing to some really bad teams here. Ohio hasn't been playing nearly as good. They're coming off a pretty bad loss against a bad Eastern Michigan team at home. This is a game I think I ended up wanting to bet. I think Ohio was supposed to dominate them in that spot, especially at home. But we're getting them off an embarrassed spot here on the road. Akron coming back, coming off arguably a tough loss against a really good Akron team. They didn't look that out of place. But it's not really a massive travel spot here. And when these two teams did play, Toledo barely won. They won by 3 points in Ohio's home court. If you look at the power ratings, when Toledo plays at home, they're almost a top 300 team. They're really bad. Ohio obviously plays worse on the road, but projectively, I think Ohio's been the better team. Toledo looks completely lost in their last few games. And matchup-wise, I do think, Toledo's played a very slightly harder schedule, but Ohio's been the better team. They're a team that shoots quite a lot of threes. And I think against a Toledo team that's ranked 264th in three-point defense, they're going to shoot a lot better from three than they did last time these two teams played. They're going to find a ton of success from the mid-range, ton of success in the near paint. They're going to get a decent amount of turnovers. On the other side, Toledo kind of relies on getting to the free throw line, which I'm sure they will. But it's an Ohio team that does not turn the ball over. They don't give up offensive boards, which is something that Toledo does rely on a lot to get scoring. So I think getting them in the revenge spot here, where Toledo's playing in a complete rut, I think Ohio takes this rematch here in the Mid-American matchup. So give me Ohio on the road. All right, now heading on to game number 4, we have North Dakota heading on the road to play South Dakota State. Now, I think North Dakota is still a little bit fraudulent. Yes, they're due for a ton of positive regression, but if you look at the analytics, man, South Dakota State is just such a better team, and they should, in theory, match up really well against North Dakota. Now, these two teams have played twice this year, and they did split it. South Dakota State in the game at home completely demolished North Dakota by like 36 points. And then North Dakota got the revenge when they played a couple weeks later, where they won by 5 points on their home court. Now, this just seems like a matchup here. This is a tournament game that's going to be much closer to South Dakota State. It's going to be more of a home game for them. And when they've had to travel such small distances, they've been pretty good. North Dakota State having to travel over 300 miles, they've been terrible. This is the spots where they typically get blown out. North Dakota coming off 2 rough road losses before the ending off the year. South Dakota State coming off a rough road loss as well to Denver. I think they're going to be more motivated for this game. I think the first matchup is more indicative of the quality of these two teams. North Dakota obviously was motivated in the revenge spot at home, but South Dakota State, one of the best, solid neutral rating team. They're 2-0 against the spread on neutral courts this year. North Dakota, terrible neutral, one of the worst teams in college basketball. They're playing on neutral courts. They're worse on the road. South Dakota State also a bit worse on the road, but not nearly as bad as North Dakota regresses on the road. We're getting South Dakota State not necessarily in a great form, but I think they've had enough time here to lock in for this tournament. And they typically do crush teams like North Dakota pretty commonly. Now, if you look at the matchups from these two teams, North Dakota has all the momentum, sure, but if you look at where South Dakota likes to score, they shoot a lot of threes. They shoot in the paint a lot. They're going to have a ton of success. North Dakota, one of the worst defenses in college basketball. South Dakota State, elite. Top 30 in mid-range percentage, top 75 in three-point percentage. They're not a great near-basket percentage team, but North Dakota's defense is just so bad that they're still going to find success if they want. They're going to dominate the offensive glass. They're just a really efficient offense. On the other side, North Dakota, they typically rely heavily on getting points off the offensive glass. South Dakota State is one of the best teams in college basketball in limiting the glass. They're ranked 38 in limiting second chance opportunity percentage. That's going to be a problem. North Dakota does not shoot the ball well at all, and they very much rely on getting offensive boards to get free points. South Dakota State does not foul. They're ranked 47th in limiting the amount of times teams get to the line. I truly don't see a world here where North Dakota is going to find a lot of success. They're just such a bad team in general that, I don't know. I think we're getting South Dakota State in technically a revenge spot since they just lost their last game. We're getting them in a court environment where they've been playing better than North Dakota. We're getting a way better team. It's like 150 rating points better than North Dakota. I think they show up big time for this first tournament game in the Summit League. So give me South Dakota State to completely crush North Dakota here by like 15, 20 points. All right, heading on to game number 5, which is going to be the lock of the day, which is going to be Boise State minus 5.5. I just don't think this Colorado State team is the same team on the road. And you could say the same thing for Boise, but we're getting them at home in a revenge spot. Now, at home, Boise State is a top 25 team. Colorado State, once they play on the road, they fall outside of the top 70. Obviously, in the last 5 games, they've looked elite. But again, most of their big wins come at home. Like when they hit the road, they have not been nearly a good team. Furthermore, this Colorado State team, If you look at their stats against teams ranked 50th or worse, they're pretty solid. But they've been really bad against elite teams like Boise State, like a top 50 team. And we're getting Boise State here at home, a team that plays really well against elite competition. And if Colorado State continues to play as they have been, I think that's going to be a problem for Colorado State. Obviously, Boise State is coming off of two pretty easy wins here against Fresno and Air Force. But they're both on the road. They're getting to come home here. Colorado State just had two solid home games against some pretty good teams. But if you look at the teams that they've had to play on the road, like they still have not looked great. They had two road games against UNLV. They only won by 8, and Air Force they obviously crushed by 22. They have big wins over Nevada, Wyoming, Utah State, San Jose State, all at home. They went on the road, lost to Utah State by 8, came home, beat San Diego State, went on the road, lost by 22. Home, went on the road, barely beat a Fresno State team they should have beaten handedly. Beat a Wyoming team that they probably should have beaten on the road anyway. They got crushed by San Diego State. Like when they hit the road, they are not nearly that good of a team. And you could arguably say the same thing with Boise. They're a team that, at home, their most recent wins are against Utah State, New Mexico, San Jose State, UNLV, Fresno State, Nevada, Wyoming, UNLV. Like they haven't lost at home since they played San Diego State when the new year started. So we're getting them, the hotter team, coming back home, winning Colorado State, heading on the road in a true travel spot after 2 home games where they're playing 600 miles away. Boise has not lost at home for over 2 months. And if you look at how these teams like to score, Boise's beaten the better team on the year. They're going to find a lot of success in the paint here, which is where they take most of their shots against a Colorado State team that doesn't defend the paint very well. They're ranked 200th in the nation. Boise State also takes a lot of threes. They don't shoot the three very well. But again, matchup-wise, this is not a Colorado State team that defends the three very well at all. Boise might find a little bit of success getting to the line here. They're one of the best free throw shooting teams in college basketball, and they shoot a lot of free throws, 17th most in the nation. Getting free points is always good, especially when you're at home with the home whistle. And if you look at the other side, Colorado State, they're a team that kind of plays very similar to Boise State. They shoot a good chunk of their shots, kind of split up, but they take a lot of threes. Boise is a much better three-point defense. Obviously, Colorado State is a much better three-point shooting team. But again, when you shoot on the road, your three-point percentage drops like 4 or 5%. They shoot a lot of mid-range. They're going to find some success in the paint, but it's not a shot really they take that often. And again, this is a Boise State team that doesn't give you free throws, doesn't give you turnovers, and doesn't give you offensive boards. So if Colorado State's threes aren't falling, I don't see how they can keep this game close. Boise is going to be really, really motivated at home in the revenge angle, where Colorado State beat them. How long ago did they beat them? January 22nd, they beat them by 3. Super close game. I think they're going to want the revenge here to finish off their season. So, give me Boise State here. This is going to be their, I guess you could call it their senior night, last game of the year at home. Colorado State. This is also going to be their last game, which sucks to be on the road. I think this is going to be a dominant win from Boise. I think they could win this game by double digits. So give me Boise as my favorite game of the day. All right, and to get to the last 2 games that I like, these are a bit like shittier teams that I don't really love that much, but it's a Ball State team. They're a team that is going to dominate the offensive boards against the Miami, Ohio team state that really has struggled on their offensive glass. This is a Ball State team that's going to get to the line a lot. They're ranked 20th in free throw attempts per game. Miami, Ohio does foul a decent amount, so I think Ball State here is going to get a lot of free points. They're going to shoot up a lot of threes, and if they miss, they're going to fight for the secondary opportunity, where they're probably either going to get fouled or they're going to get the free points. So it's hard for me to see a world where Miami, Ohio can run away with this game. Obviously, they're the much better offensive team, but this is still a Miami, Ohio team that a Ball State team that's not that bad at defending the three. They're ranked 115th. That's a shot that Miami takes over 40% of the time. They're really not that great of a mid-range or near-basket shooting team. And if they do shoot up threes, Ball State doesn't really give you a lot of offensive boards. And they don't turn the ball over that much either. So Yeah, I think this is a spot here where Ball State can keep this game pretty competitive. Obviously, Miami High is the better team, but again, Ball State due for some positive regression. Miami High due for some negative regression. We're getting almost double digits here for a road team that should find some success in a couple ways. So I do like Ball State to keep this game close. And VMI versus Citadel, I just think Citadel is so awful. I think VMI here is going to force a ton of turnovers. They're going to get to the line a lot, where they're one of the better free throw shooting teams in college basketball. They might find success in the paint. I just think Citadel does absolutely nothing well at all. And we're getting VMI here at a pretty good price at home, where they've been playing significantly better basketball. Sure, Citadel's due for some regression, but so is VMI. I don't think it's going to be enough here for Citadel to keep this game too competitive. So if VMI can force a ton of turnovers, I think they win this game by double digits. In terms of leans, I think West Carolina can keep this game kind of close, but again, I'm not really in the habit of betting West Carolina. Mercer's a team that not very good, but they have the ability to just get hot out of nowhere, and I've seen it happen too many times. I do lean Illinois. I just wanted to put this in case anyone wanted to bet it. I just don't really trust this Purdue defense. Relying on them to shoot well from three against a pretty solid Illinois 3-point defense is going to be a chore. Illinois plays really good at home, and they're just going to dominate the paint against a Purdue team that is probably one of the worst teams at defending the paint in all of college basketball. So I think Illinois is just going to get too many free points. If Purdue doesn't get hot from three, I don't find this game close. Maybe the over is a good look, but I have no care to bet that game, honestly. I'd rather just watch it. And UNLV, I just think that game is going to be closer than it looks. New Mexico, I think their home court has been not as good of an advantage as it used to be back in future years. UNLV's been playing really good basketball. I think they'll find some success here. But again, not going to bet it because the line is 4 points off where I would put it, and typically that means I'm missing something. So maybe there's an injury I'm not sure of or something of that nature, but in that case, I'm probably not going to touch the game. So yeah, those are the 7 games that I'm betting. Just to recap, Bradley minus 3.5, Bowling Green minus 3, Ohio moneyline on the road, South Dakota State at home minus 8.5, Boise State lock minus 5.5 at home, Ball State on the road plus 9.5, and VMI at home minus 5.5. Hopefully we can get another 7-0 sweep. Very likely that it's not going to happen. Going 20-1-0 on spreads is like flipping a coin 21 times and guessing it. If it happens, that's insane. Hopefully a lot of you guys are tailing along on this hot streak, but we'll see how today goes. I genuinely don't love this slate. Even my lock of the day is not necessarily that confident because you never know what's going to happen between these two teams. But yeah, again, I said this yesterday, but don't just when I get hot, don't just like bet more than your units. Follow your unit sizing, and hopefully we keep staying profitable. But yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.